Thank you very much, dear Ilva, ministers, commissioners, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Brussels. We are here today because we have heard their stories. We have heard the stories of the survivors, young men amassed in the back of trucks across the desert with no food, no air, only a few bottles of dirty water, young women abused over and over again along the route. We all have heard the stories of victims of migrant smugglers. We have heard the stories of smugglers who got rich on the back of their victims. And there are many other stories that we will never know because they ended in tragedy in the desert sand or at the bottom of the sea. Today we gather here in Brussels from different continents and different backgrounds. But whether we represent countries of origin, of transit, or of destination for migrants, we all share the same desire. We are here to fight this criminal business, to stop this unspeakable suffering. We are here to build a global alliance against the smuggling of human beings. We all know how difficult this work can be, but progress is possible. And where we have managed to join forces within Europe, with countries near and far, and with international organizations, progress is already happening. In September, I was on the island of Lampedusa, one of the gateways between Europe and Africa. I saw the unseaworthy boats that smugglers are providing, causing the death of so many innocent people. I saw the dire situation of migrants who survived the dangerous trip. I saw the incredible solidarity of local people, as well as the exhaustion of yet another crisis. Since then, we've managed to improve the situation with hard work on a 10-point plan. We joined forces with Italy, UN agencies, and Tunisia. Crisis management is important, but it is not enough. We have to build a systemic response that puts migrant smugglers out of business and prevents the loss of life. And this is the logic behind the anti-smuggling operational partnership that we have established in these years. First with our friends in the Western Balkans, who are not just neighbors but future members of our union. And then with some key countries around our borders, for instance, Morocco and Tunisia. But there is also room for much broader global cooperation. The criminal organizations that manage migrant smugglings are international in nature. They operate across borders, all along the routes that lead from the countries of origin to the final destination of migrants. We need to tackle every link of these criminal chains. Their business is often very diversified, and half of the migrant smuggling networks are also involved, as you know, in traffic of drugs, of firearms, and of human beings. They do not only exploit human suffering, but they also represent a broader security threat. And this is why we want to establish new bilateral partnerships and operational task forces focusing on all routes where criminals and criminal trade takes place. But we also need a global alliance with a common governance and shared goals. It should be global not only in geographical sense, but also in its scope, by focusing on prevention on response, and on legal alternatives to the deadly smuggling routes. And this is the spirit that has driven us in organizing this conference. The first track we will work on is to prevent and dissuade people from entrusting their life to smugglers. The best way to avoid violence and death along the route is to avoid that the dangerous trip takes place. And this involves cooperation in border management and intelligence sharing, but as you all know, also soft tools such as information campaigns and a new focus on so-called digital smuggling. Most irregular crossings today are advertised on social media, they are organized on messaging apps, and they are paid for by digital money transfer. And this can only be addressed at the international level by working with internet companies. So, together, we can prevent people from putting their lives in the hands of ruthless criminals. Second, we must be tough and united in our response to the crime of smuggling. We must all put in place the right legislation. We must get our law enforcement agencies and prosecution services to work together. We must seize the assets used by criminals. We must shut down the international supply chains and financial flows of criminal groups. And we can only do this together. We all have something to learn, and we all have something to share. Here in Europe, we are working right now to update our anti-smuggling legislation, which is 20 years old. We will update the definition of the crime of migrant smuggling. We will toughen the sanctions, and we will extend our jurisdictional reach. We also want to improve the cooperation between member states and agencies, with one single European centre against migrant smuggling to coordinate activities and share information in Europol. We will set up operational task forces, including with partner countries, and Europol will deploy staff to reinforce member states' capacity on the ground. The smuggling networks are constantly evolving, but also must our response constantly evolve. And as we update our own legislation to prevent and respond to migrant smuggling, we also want to step up our cooperation with you, the international partners. And here, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has a central role to play. You are the guardians of the UN Convention against Transnational Organized Crime, which entered into force 20 years ago in Palermo. And today we want to support you even more, both to accompany signatories with legal and technical assistance, and to bring more countries on board. Together we can make sure that we all have the right tools to go after these criminal networks. And finally, but very important, we must offer more legal alternatives to the people who want to seek fortune abroad. This is an interest we all share. In Europe, labor and skills shortages have reached record levels. In other continents, there are millions of people who seek to work and learn. And we must manage this in a way that it is safe, humane, and mutually beneficial. With job matching initiatives such as the EU talent pool, which the Commission recently proposed, with circular routes where people move, train, and bring their new expertise back home. We want, but this mobility must be managed by the law, not by the smuggler. We are creating talent partnerships with Tunisia, with Morocco, with Egypt, Bangladesh, Pakistan. And we can grant more opportunities for people to come to Europe legally. This goes in parallel to strengthen cooperation on return of irregular migrants. These two need to go hand in hand. The better we are in legal migration, the more convincing we can be in preventing irregular migration. Ladies and gentlemen, most countries are at the same time countries of origin, transit, and destination for migrants. We're all different, but we are all together in this. And we can all learn from each other. So this conference shall not be a one-off event. We will set up expert groups at technical level and take forward on the three strands of the conference. We will then gather again in 1 year from now and take stock. And this is the beginning of a common path. And this is why we are launching a call to action open to all who want to join us in this mission. It is a call to all of us, EU institutions and agencies, governments and national authorities, international organizations and online platforms. We need to pull our weight together if we are to be effective. And with the Global Alliance, we can start a new era of cooperation and give a better chance to millions of people. Ladies and gentlemen, in human history, people have always moved. But never before has the smuggling business been so profitable, so deadly. Human mobility is a fact of life. Migrant smuggling should not be one. It is a matter of political will. It can be defeated, and we only can succeed together. So I thank all of you for being here today, and I very much welcome you again to the International Conference to Counter Migrant Smuggling. Big success I wish you for today. Thank you very much for your attention.